Disclaimer: the content in this video is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. Our goal is to report on public conversations, provide context, and, where applicable, clarify misinformation.
I was watching him very closely. I saw like his hand shaking a bit, but very involved. He's fighting for his life.
All it took was one woman to shake the empire. Cassie stepped into that courtroom, pregnant and fearless, and by the time she was done speaking, Diddy wasn't just sweating. He was terrified. This wasn't just a trial. It was an unmasking. And the secrets she exposed? You're not ready for what comes next.
In their hand, they're coming in, they're very alert, and I think this is one of those testimonies where you have no choice but to pay attention and almost be flabbergasted, obviously, at some of what you're hearing, because it's not only just insight into somebody's sex life, but the details are disturbing at times, especially during that prosecution testimony when we saw some of the alleged abuse, or we saw pictures of her after a beating of some kind, according to her. But the jurors are definitely paying attention. I don't see anyone that's not keeping their focus on Cassie Ventura, and also I noticed them taking notes a lot of times.
When Cassie took the stand, the entire courtroom fell into an eerie silence. 8 months pregnant and visibly shaken, she wasn't there to perform. She was there to reveal. Her voice cracked, but her words cut deep, each one pulling back the curtain on a relationship twisted by power, control, and violence. She started from the beginning, back in 2007 when she was just 19 and newly signed to Bad Boy Records. It was supposed to be the start of a dream, but by the time she turned 21, that dream had morphed into a nightmare. Diddy had kissed her on her birthday. Cassie said she felt confused, afraid. He was 17 years older, a gatekeeper in the industry, and she was just getting started. But the shock came when she described the violence. She spoke of arguments that didn't end with shouting, but with dragging, kicking, bruises. It happened, she said, too frequently. And the courtroom gasped when the prosecutors played that 2016 hotel video, the one CNN dropped in 2024, showing Diddy physically attacking her in a hallway. It was no longer just her word. It was real, raw footage. And it hit like a freight train. Then came the most disturbing part. Cassie talked about what she called the freak-offs, bizarre, orchestrated events where Diddy allegedly forced her to have sex with male escorts while he watched, directed, even filmed. She named names. She described places: LA, Miami, Vegas. These weren't just wild nights. They were planned productions, and she said they made her feel worthless. One man, Daniel Phillip, backed her up, testifying that he, too, was paid to participate. His testimony was so graphic, Diddy's own daughters had to...
The children, as they were exiting court yesterday, 2 of the girls were seen crying. How emotional have they been in court?
Again, I cannot imagine if that was my father or somebody close to me up there and having to hear details of their sex life. Those are young women. They lost their mother, one of them, the twins. So no one can probably quite understand what it is that they're going through, but I think that's something that you think about on both sides, you know, to look at Alex Fine, which is Cassie Ventura's husband, and think about him having to listen to all that's being said about the type of woman that Cassie Ventura was versus the person that's expecting, you know, their 3rd child together now. So whether it's Combs's family or Ventura's family that's there to support her, her brother and her husband, Alex Fine, I think it's difficult on both sides. Seen him taking notes from the beginning. I see him put his glasses on. He gets very close to the screen when they're reading some of those text messages, so he's paying attention.
Leave the room. Cassie said she felt like a prisoner, every move monitored, every choice made for her. She tried to leave, but feared the consequences. Saying no, she believed, would only lead to more beatings. And while she sobbed, rubbing her pregnant belly, Diddy's lawyers tried to have her pregnancy hidden from jurors, worried it might sway them. But the damage had already been done. Her pain was real, her story undeniable. Then came more disturbing claims. An anonymous witness described how Diddy allegedly forced Cassie to get breast implants in 2009, only to demand they be removed the next day. Despite the health risks, despite her pain, the surgery was reversed. She was sobbing, traumatized. He controlled her body, her voice, her image, and Cassie wasn't the only one. Another woman, only identified as Jane, is expected to testify about similar experiences, more freak-offs, more abuse, more silence. Meanwhile, Diddy sits in court, pale, thinned out, whispering to his lawyers, shaking slightly. The man once hailed as untouchable, now trembling. The trial began May 5, 2025, with intense jury selection. The judge wanted to know,
Literally, he came with a case of paperwork. He was on the tablet sitting next to Brian Steele. He's reading every juror profile as things are happening. Like when that man revealed that his wife was a part of that litigation team, he's reacting with his attorneys. They're having conversations, but he's also, even though he's in all of that, still very enduring. He was making them laugh.
had they seen the 2016 footage? Were they influenced by memes about Diddy's baby oil collection? People were nervous. Some even tried to back out. But eventually, a full jury was locked in. And then came the bombshell. Federal prosecutors accused Diddy of running a full-blown criminal enterprise through Bad Boy Entertainment, using his empire to coerce, bribe, and silence women. They weren't just accusing him of assault, they were painting him as the kingpin of a sex trafficking ring. But Diddy's legal team? They argued it was all consensual, that this was just a misunderstood swinger lifestyle, that the accusers were after money. Yet the evidence kept piling up. Police testified about a 2016 hotel scene, Diddy sitting in a towel with a devilish stare, a bribe allegedly offered, surveillance footage matching every word, and then came the male stripper's story, how he was hired for a party only to find Cassie alone and terrified. Diddy allegedly grabbed her by the hair, yelled, and slapped her. Another puzzle piece that matched Cassie's story. Public opinion split. Gloria Allred, the famed women's rights attorney, backed the accusers. Nancy Grace called out Diddy's legal team, warning them not to bully a pregnant victim. But others, like Dr. Umar Johnson, claimed it was all a setup, a cash grab, a conspiracy. He even suggested Cassie's $30 million settlement made her testimony invalid. Still, more women kept stepping forward. A resurfaced interview from Diddy's ex, Gina Hoyne, described being stomped on, dragged by her hair, and emotionally destroyed. She claimed he pressured her to terminate pregnancies and manipulated her every move. And then came Jonathan Audi, a man who said he was used as a sex slave by both Diddy and Cassie. His claims were wild, but suddenly people were listening. Even Joe Budden got dragged into it when a leaked video showed him vibing with Diddy, right before what some claim was a freak-off. But that wasn't even the worst part. After his arrest, Diddy was denied bail. Twice. Judges feared he'd tamper with witnesses. His team offered a $50 million bond. They even promised no female visitors except family. The court still said no. Now,
Ventura confirmed that she and Combs had conversations about a swingers lifestyle, but that the freak-offs, they were very different.
Yeah, so she talked about this idea where I guess Combs wanted her to watch him have sex with another woman. She said that happened 2 or 3 times, but that he mentioned it frequently.
Kim Porter came up today in testimony. What was the significance there?
The defense said early on that this case would be about infidelity, love, and jealousy. And this is where they brought that up today when they brought up Kim Porter's name. The defense asked Cassie Ventura, are you jealous or were you jealous of Kim Porter? And Ventura sort of contemplated, but did get to this moment where she said, knowing that Combs spent holidays with his family, which meant with Porter, did bother her. And she admitted that. They also pointed out that there was testimony where she talked about being insanely jealous overall as a girlfriend. So, yeah.
We're hearing the judge wants Cassie off the stand tomorrow. Will the prosecution and defense get equal time?
Yeah, as long as there aren't any additional motions, I think that is the goal, to have her off the stand by tomorrow.
Why do you think that? What's the reasoning behind wanting her off the stand tomorrow?
In the very beginning.
but to really grasp how deep this goes, you have to rewind to when it all started unraveling. November 16, 2023. That's when Cassie filed the federal lawsuit under New York's Adult Survivors Act. The lawsuit wasn't just a list of grievances. It was a blueprint of years-long abuse, coercion, and control. She painted a portrait of Diddy not as a music mogul, but as a predator who weaponized fame and fortune to dominate women behind closed doors. In that suit, Cassie claimed Diddy beat her, drugged her, and filmed her in explicit scenarios with other men. One incident stuck out: a March 2016 fight at the Intercontinental Hotel in LA. It sounded like a horror story. But then, in May 2024, CNN dropped the bomb. Security footage that showed Diddy dragging, shoving, and kicking her in that very hallway. The video matched the words. The bruises weren't metaphorical anymore. They were on camera. The freak-offs, as disturbing as they sound, were confirmed by multiple women and even Diddy's own inner circle. Former staffers said these weren't just kinky parties, they were carefully arranged events involving escorts, drugs, cameras, and total submission. Cassie claimed he used ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, anything to break down resistance. One woman alleged Diddy broke into her apartment in 2018, raped her, and kept her silent with threats and money. Cassie said she was constantly drugged, disoriented, addicted, isolated. That every decision, what she wore, who she saw, what music she released, had to go through Diddy. Then came more names: Joy, Dickerson, Neal, Jane Doe, all with eerily similar stories. Assault, control, cameras, even Kid Cody's name surfaced. Allegedly, when Diddy learned Cassie was dating him, he blew up Cody's car, and Cody later confirmed, yeah, it happened. And let's not forget Lil Rod. The respected producer dropped his own lawsuit in early 2025, accusing Diddy of harassment and grooming, claiming he lived in Diddy's homes, witnessed hidden cameras, and even had to record inside Diddy's bathroom while the mogul strolled around naked. Lil Rod said Diddy promised him Grammy wins in exchange for favors. He even claimed Diddy handed him hard drives full of secretly recorded sex footage, some involving minors. That lawsuit led to the federal raid, and when agents hit Diddy's Miami mansion, they weren't playing. Over 1,000 bottles of lubricant, stashes of narcotics, firearms with defaced serial numbers. They called it what it looked like: a sex trafficking operation. But Diddy's attorneys kept fighting. They said this was just his lifestyle, that nothing was forced. They pushed back against the media, saying leaked footage wasn't proof of a crime. But that argument, it's looking weaker by the day, especially now that Diddy's sitting inside MDC Brooklyn on suicide watch. A man once feared, now feared for. He used to walk into clubs like a god. Now he's being watched 24/7 in a padded cell, stripped of shoelaces, dignity, and maybe even hope. His team says he's innocent, but the mountain of testimony, the surveillance, the paper trail, and the sheer number of accusers tell a different story. This trial isn't just about Diddy. It's about what happens when power goes unchecked for too long. And as more witnesses step forward, more stories surface, and more people find the courage to speak, this might be the moment that changes celebrity culture forever. Because when the lights fade and the money can't protect you, the truth doesn't care who you are.